Malaysia has done the unthinkable. The New World Order just began.
We will work together in various fields of endeavor, in economy, in trade, in investments.
Malaysia's economy is still shrinking, but things aren't looking quite so bad.
Malaysia has done the unthinkable. The New World Order just began. A new alliance has just formed, one that brings together the oil kings of the Gulf, the industrial might of China, and the rising diplomatic force of Southeast Asia. And at the center of it all, Malaysia, in a move barely covered by Western media. Over 20 nations gathered in Kuala Lumpur for the first ever ASEAN China Gulf Cooperation Council Trilateral Summit, and what they signed could quietly reset the global balance of power. Together, these nations control over $25 trillion in GDP, 2 billion people, and more than half of global GDP growth. Forget BRICS for a second. This might be the real game changer, and right now, while Washington fights trade wars, bans TikTok, and alienates old allies, China, Malaysia, and the Gulf states are building a new world order. The West didn't see it coming, but you will. Chapter 1. What really happened at the summit? In May 2025, Kuala Lumpur played host to one of the most underreported yet geopolitically explosive summits of the decade. It was the first ever trilateral meeting between ASEAN and nation Southeast Asian Bloc, China, the world's second largest economy, and the Gulf Cooperation Council, home to the world's most powerful oil states. But this wasn't just another polite diplomatic gathering. This was strategic, calculated, and deeply symbolic. These leaders didn't just shake hands. They signed on to 5 pillars of cooperation that challenged the West's economic dominance. 1. Stronger trade ties. They're fast-tracking free trade agreements and integrating digital economies. Second, infrastructure and Belt and Road 2.0, a major expansion of China's infrastructure influence, with Southeast Asia as the gateway. 3. Energy cooperation, joint ventures on clean energy, nuclear tech, and a post-oil energy transition. 4th, tech and innovation, AI, fintech, smart cities, backed by Gulf wealth and Chinese hardware. 5. Cultural exchange, education, tourism, and soft power, building people-to-people ties outside the Western narrative. The result? A new economic alliance that accounts for 55% of global GDP growth, and it's accelerating. And yet, not a single front page on CNN, nothing on the BBC, because what just happened here challenges everything the old world order was built on. Chapter 2. Why Malaysia, and not China, is leading this soft power shift. Of all the power players at the table, it wasn't China that stole the spotlight. It was Malaysia, a country long underestimated, now quietly emerging as a diplomatic super connector between Asia, the Middle East, and the global South. Why Malaysia? Because it's neutral, strategic, and multilingual in more ways than one. Geopolitically, economically, culturally. Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, once a political prisoner, now a global statesman, has made it clear Malaysia isn't choosing sides between Washington and Beijing. Instead, it's building bridges. Malaysia is a founding member of ASEAN. It's a major Muslim majority nation with historical ties to the Middle East, and it's been a Belt and Road partner since day one. Add to that strong halal exports to the Gulf, Islamic finance ties with Saudi banks, and deep tech partnerships with China. In a world growing more divided, Malaysia is doing the impossible, bringing rival blocs to the same table. That's not just diplomacy, that's power. And that's why this summit didn't happen in Riyadh or Beijing. It happened in Kuala Lumpur. Chapter 3: How Trump's tariffs backfired and united the East. When Donald Trump returned to the White House in 2025, he promised a new economic revolution, Liberation Day tariffs. He said they'd rebuild American factories, punish China, and bring jobs back home. But here's what actually happened. In just 47 days, the Trump administration imposed sweeping tariffs on over a dozen countries, including 6 ASEAN nations, key U.S. partners like Malaysia, Vietnam, and Thailand. The result: not a single new trade deal signed, and not a single job revived. What did happen? An economic backlash. These countries didn't run to Washington. They turned toward each other and toward China. ASEAN fast-tracked a 5-year strategy to become the world's 4th largest economy by 2045. Meanwhile, Gulf nations like Saudi Arabia and the UAE, long aligned with the US, began shifting their focus, increasing trade with Southeast Asia from $130 billion to a projected $180 billion by 2032. But it's not just about numbers. These nations are betting big on AI and green tech, digital finance, and next-gen infrastructure, fields where China already leads. So while America builds walls with tariffs, Asia and the Middle East are building an entirely new economy, not in opposition to the West, but without it. Chapter 4: GCC's quiet pivot away from the US. The Gulf once orbited Washington. From Saudi Arabia to the UAE to Qatar, oil-rich monarchies built their fortunes under the protection of American power. But in Kuala Lumpur, the world saw a subtle pivot. These nations are now diversifying. And China, it's the new gravitational force. Gulf-ASEAN trade is on track to reach $180 billion by 2032. And it's not just about oil. Their new focus: green technology, digital finance, artificial intelligence, smart infrastructure. All sectors where China already dominates. The symbolism was clear. While America builds tariff walls, Asia and the Middle East are building bridges. The petrodollar era is being redefined, and the next chapter may be written in yuan, not dollars. Chapter 5: Indonesia's shocking speech. But trade wasn't the only thing that changed in Kuala Lumpur. Something deeper was shifting. A moral realignment. Indonesia, the world's largest Muslim-majority nation, and a long-time U.S. ally, took center stage. Its newly elected president, Prabowo Subianto, delivered a speech that shocked Western analysts, standing shoulder to shoulder with China's premier. He praised Beijing for its unwavering opposition to imperialism, colonialism, and apartheid. And then he dropped a bombshell. China's support for Palestine, he said, is a point of pride for all of us. That line wasn't just a diplomatic nod. It was a clear message to Washington. The Muslim world is realigning. Western media has long tried to drive a wedge between China and Muslim nations, using narratives around Xinjiang and religious freedom. But on this stage, that wedge crumbled. From Indonesia to Saudi Arabia, China is now seen not just as an economic partner, but as a moral counterweight to what many view as Western hypocrisy. A nation that doesn't invade, doesn't sanction, doesn't dictate. Instead, it offers respect, investment, and solidarity. This isn't just geopolitics, it's cultural diplomacy, and it's working. Chapter 6. Dawn of a New Order. What it means for the West. While the West debates TikTok bans and spirals into political gridlock, the global South is rewriting the rules. This ASEAN-China Gulf Summit isn't just a photo op, it's a blueprint for something far bigger. A post-American world powered by new alliances, new currencies, and new ambitions. And guess who's already making their move? The Philippines, a country once dismissed as just another struggling archipelago, is now becoming Southeast Asia's fastest growing economy. They're building smart cities, launching mega energy projects, and standing up to China in the South China Sea, all while pulling billions in investment from the US, Japan, and the Middle East. If you want to understand where this silent power shift is headed, watch our Philippines deep dive next. The Philippines just made the biggest move in Asia. It's a story of bold moves, new energy, and a nation that refuses to be underestimated.